A couple of weeks ago, I was lucky enough to be sent a box of art journal goodies from Journalsay. And rather than just doing one of those unboxings where you go, oh, look what I've got, I thought it would be better to put them to the test through a spread in my art journal. This is my latest little circular art journal I've made that I've just started working on. My name's Liz Chatterton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire. And while I absolutely love painting animals and birds in watercolour and ink, I also love art journaling. Every week I share a tip or trick that I wish I'd known about ages ago, and I also share discoveries of new art materials. So this week we're going to look at how those Journalsay materials worked in practice. Look, I've got my little circular journal, which is what I'm working on at the moment, and I've done a few pages here. What I've done is pick just a few of the things out of that wonderful haul, and I thought I would do a page. So I picked this out, a few papers out, not sure whether I'll use that in there. Like the colours of this, I'm generally not that keen on using kind of motto type things, but maybe today will be different, I don't know. I really loved, if I can get it, this old-fashioned elm, and would love to use that because I love different transparencies. In this lovely wooden box, I have opened up one of the stashes of little papers. There was, 60 pieces in there. There's sort of receipts and bits out of journal and things like that. So they are there. Got some of those butterfly stickers because they were gorgeous. Washi tapes, stamps, some of those butterfly stamps, more washi tape. So I've just picked a few things that I thought might make a very sort of teal and yellowy spread. The only thing I'm going to use out of my own stash is this tiny bit of a map, because I thought if I'm thinking about climbing mountains, so a map would be good. And I've got a little bit of just brown tissue paper in case I want to use some of that. And look, I'm going to use my lovely scissors. They're so pretty. Let's start with a layer of collage. And I'm thinking, say, of that map. I'm going to probably rip this into pieces to get sort of layers of mountains, and I'll cut this bit out at the bottom and save it just in case I do decide to use that as wording. Then I am going to rip like this, vaguely following the mountains. Oh, I wonder if, just to fill this space, whether there's one of these scraps that might, see, something like that would work there, wouldn't it? Oh, I haven't used any of the transparent tissue. Could always make some more mountainy sort of shapes out of that. Okay, that's my idea. Let's start and see where this is going to take us. This is actually a bit of Oxfordshire. Not a lot of mountains in Oxfordshire, it must be said. So when I'm doing this, I'm not going to worry about overhangs because I can always cut them off when it's dry. What I will do is just put a bit of paper sort of under here, just to protect the rest of my book. And I'm going to use matte gel medium to glue everything down. I like to be pretty generous with the matte gel because this is our foundation layer, and if it falls to pieces, then yeah, then everything has fallen to pieces. Try and get that pretty flat. Doesn't matter if you get the matte gel on top of papers because it dries clear. And in fact, if you put a bit more on top, it sort of seals it and lets you do more on top if you want. Just aim to get it nice and flat, well sealed down. It's really nice working with bits that I wouldn't usually work with. I mean, then things that I wouldn't have in my normal stash. To have things that are specifically for journaling is a bit of a new departure for me. Do love a bit of transparency. So this is just brown tissue. It's actually from dressmaking, for making patterns. So it's just plain for dressmaking, and I love using it because you can see what's going on underneath, but it does veil it as well. And I thought the colour would pick up the colour of the moon. So because I've got some matte gel left over, I'm actually going to coat the entire surface. Often I would use clear gesso just to seal and protect the surface, but I'm not anticipating doing any painting on this, so I reckon I will get away. Oops, let's just get careful, make sure those edges are down. I reckon I will get away with just using the matte gel medium. It dries clear and just gives a little bit of a matte finish, which will be good. And will particularly, I need to seal that tissue paper. I'm looking forward to getting this dry and being able to carry on. Okay, that's just about dry, so I'll take out my protective sheets and then let's see how sharp my lovely little scissors are. So I'm going to trim off the excess, and I find it's best to trim it from behind like this. So while it was drying, I looked more closely at these lovely photo negatives that we used to use, and I actually saw in the pack that there is one with a mountain and a moon on. I'm just wondering whether I could include that. Kind of like the idea of travelling from the city. So if I cover up Oxford, travelling from the city and travelling the world, and then maybe putting some of this here. And then I also found in that beautiful pack of all the different papers, I mean, this is more like netting, and I really liked the circles because they pick up the moon. So I also wondered about cutting out some of this because I've never really used this sort of stuff in my collage. And I don't like the really straight edge here, but I wondered, let's just come, say, over here, how sharp these scissors were and whether I could sort of cut round, have more of a raggedy edge. So the trouble is, when you order things online, you're never quite sure what you're getting. But it's a great way of getting something that you wouldn't usually choose, and that might make you a lot more creative. So I'm going to put that down there and then just sort of embed the netting in it. Put a bit over the top. Oh, I like how the edges are kind of fraying out of it. So my mind, how it's going is that there's someone who lives in this anonymous place on the map, and they are travelling the world to see someone they love. And they travel night and day and through the mountains and through, under the moon and so forth. Who knows? I'm starting to tell myself a little story here. If I cut those and put those there, it's really nice to echo the curve of the book. Don't like it against, it's a bit dark against there. So I have a thought. Let's go back to that little stash of scraps that we had, and we could make a little background for them like that. And then I've no idea how I'm going to glue this. So I'm just going to do it. I hope this glue works. Well, I hope to use all those butterflies, these beautiful butterfly stamps and stickers that I bought, but I'm not sure that any butterflies are appropriate on there. But now my mind has thought about people travelling and seeing the world and climbing mountains. I have got these stamps, like postage stamps. Right. I'm going to test these out before I do it on my page, and that will also allow some of this to dry. I've got just a black ink pad. It's pigment ink, so if I ever put water over the top, it shouldn't run. Let's have a look. Ah, Venezia, right. They're quite fun because they a very vintage feel to it. I wonder what this one is. A bit hard to tell from there. Oh, I think that's an old French stamp. Oh, that's my favourite so far, I think. But that's nice. Is that a French stamp? Let's get this the right way up. US stamp, and that was Havana. If I stamped on more of this tissue paper, I could get more transparency into my piece, and that might be nice. And if nothing else, that will allow me to think of the placement. Because this tissue paper is very fragile, I'll put the glue onto the surface first. And you can see how the edges just sort of fade off. Just want more of that circle, so I don't get the stamp as well. I'll just cover that up. And I've just thought we had this washi tape which was like a reel of stamps, didn't we? Shall I open that and see? Oh yeah, look, it is like just a whole sort of thing of stamps. And that would be quite fun, just to pick up some of the pink of that and put it somewhere. God, that is super sticky. It's really hard not to rip it. Just a biro that you would usually write with, and I think I would like to do a little bit of handwriting across this. So what if I was traveling the world and talking to someone and missing the person I love and ready to climb all those mountains? Wonder what I'd write. I'd say I was missing you, wishing you were here. When are you coming back? How are you? Doesn't really matter what I write, but I just think a little bit of handwriting is very personal. Liking the doodly mark, and I just wonder whether I might put a few more random marks in. So the last thing I'm going to try is that funny brush that I ordered, because I thought it would be good for antiquing the edges of papers. It would give a really fine sort of darkening of the edge if you wanted it to look like it was a bit sort of distressed. Oh, and I think it does. So I'm just dipping it in my ink pad, and because it's so fine, it just gives a little edge to it. And I think that's quite nice for my feeling of this, I don't know, an old world romance across the world. So there, I've tried as many things as I could from that wonderful stash. I've tried some of the papers, I tried some of that sort of netting and the fancy papers, some of their printouts, those lovely negatives, the stamps, the roll of washi tape, that funny brush, probably something else in there as well. And I've really enjoyed the little workout that's given my creativity. So all that's left for me to do is to do some serious tidying up.